Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome to another Go Muffin video. So a lot of people have been asking me recently about stats. Now, the game obviously does have a lot of different stats that it throws at you, and it's pretty good to understand what all of those do. But before we begin, I quickly have to block a spammer. I don't know why these guys are showing up. There's just so many of these damn scammers. Anyway, now we can continue with the video. So let's talk about stats. So in order to see all the stats in the game, you go to your info page, and then in your info page, you have this little magnifying glass here. And when you click on that, you're getting not only a breakdown of your power, but when you click on stats details, then you have the full list of stats. So I think to start, let's just go through one by one all the stats here and just understand what they do first and foremost before going into any details of like how much of each you should have. So starting off, we have attack. Attack is pretty self-explanatory. It is increasing the attack value of your basic attacks and damaging skills, and also increasing your healing skills strength. So obviously a pretty important stat. You can get a lot of attack from your gear, as well from recasting your gear, for example, as well your gloves and ring give attack. So those are some good sources of it. Defense, again, another self-explanatory stat, basically reduces the damage you take. HP, the more HP you have, the bigger the hits you can tank without dying. So again, you get these mostly from gear and some other sources. Now, crit percentage is a very important stat. It increases your chance to deal a critical hit. And basically, almost all classes benefit from crit percentage, and you want to get as much of it as possible. The other stat that's in line with crit percentage and is also equally important is determination. Now, determination is like crit in that it's a percentage chance whenever you deal damage or healing to take effect, and in determination's case, it ignores the target's defense if you're dealing damage, or it doubles the healing output if it's a healing spell. Now, you can actually have the same attack or heal both crit and get a determination at the same time, and that triggers what's called a lucky crit, which is very much increasing the effectiveness of that skill by a lot. So that's a very good set of stats to focus on, and I'll explain a bit later just how much of each you need. Now then we get over to attack speed and haste. Now these two stats are somewhat related and have been a source of quite a bit of confusion for people, so I'm going to show you how they are linked. So attack speed percentage is increasing the cast speed of your basic attacks and active skills, and this basically increases the animation speed of anything that's not your passives. And haste further also increases the recite and channel speed as well, which sounds like some made shit, so you should go ask them what that means exactly. But further than this, I'm going to show you how haste and attack speed are connected. So if I go now from here to my stash where I have my equipment, I have my greaves here, which you can see have level 5 haste on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to just any piece of gear that doesn't have haste on it, and I'm going to go back to the stats, and then you can see here both my haste has gone down and my attack speed has gone down by an equivalent amount. So haste actually increases your attack speed percentage, and I think a lot of people I've seen are confused about that relationship. So that's why people are like, well, gee, do I really need haste for my class? The answer is yeah, you will. It may not be like #1 priority, but it's still going to have a beneficial impact on you because it's increasing your attack speed, even if you're not a class that has recite and channel speed. While I'm talking about haste, also it's important to note that there are some skills that have their cooldown reduced by haste, and for example, priest healing. Now there are the skills that are going to be affected by haste, have their cooldown affected by haste, it'll actually be written in the skill description. It'll say this skill's cooldown is affected by haste, or it says affected by haste percentage. So that's how you know if that skill will be affected by haste. So I'm going to just go back and put my regular greaves back on and continue with the explanations. Now, moving on, we have mastery percentage. Mastery percentage is again a stat that I think a lot of people were confused about. Essentially, it is final damage or final healing. So the way this works, if you're going to deal 100 damage and you have 10% mastery, you'll deal 110 damage. Same for healing. So it is a flat percentage increase to whatever the hit is going to be. Accuracy, again, increases your chance of your attacks not being dodged by enemies. Now, the main reason you want to have a lot of accuracy right now is for the dragon, and I'll show you that in a little while. Just so, actually, let me show you now. So just so you understand. So accuracy here increases your chance of your attacks not to be dodged. But if we go into, I'll show you this quickly. If we go into Dragon Bounty and then you click on this plus sign here where you can see the dragon's skills information, it actually shows here actual accuracy. And this is your effective accuracy against the dragon. Now the dragon, compared to other monsters in the game, does have higher accuracy requirements for you to be able to hit him 100% of the time. And this is actually pretty important. So right now I have 99.26% effective accuracy, and if I go back to my stats, I'm 102.3%. So I actually need a bit more accuracy to hit the dragon 100% of the time. That number right now seems to be 103%. So it's just important to note that you will try to keep your accuracy at that mark that gives you a 100% hit rate against the dragon. Now, evasion is a percentage chance when taking damage to evade and take no damage. So this is obviously a pretty good stat, especially for like a melee DPS, like from a defensive point of view. If you're going to have a defensive stat as a melee DPS like assassin, evasion's a pretty good one to have, because you do get quite a lot of small hits while standing in melee range. So being able to evade quite a few of these attacks is pretty useful to avoid the damage you take. Block percentage, again, when you're hit by attack, you trigger a chance to block and reduce the damage taken. This is primarily a tank stat, and it's pretty important for tanks. You want to have as much of it as possible. Sorry, I misspoke. It's when you're hit by a basic attack. Excuse me, just want to clarify. But it is still a pretty important stat for tanks, and you're going to want to get quite a bit of this. I believe someone said 30% or something like that. I don't play a tank, but I'll do my best to explain what all these stats, what stats are useful for which classes. Now, endurance just simply reduces all damage taken by a fixed percentage, which is what's here. Whatever endurance percentage you have reduces the damage you take. And then tenacity is a somewhat interesting stat from a defensive point of view. Basically, as your HP decreases, it gradually reduces the damage taken. And so I have 0 tenacity, therefore it says when HP drops to 15%, it reduces 0.0% of tenacity percentage's damage. But basically you can see it's something like a last stand style of defensive ability, where the lower your HP goes, the more effective the damage reduction is. So then we get into the advanced stats. And so here you have crit damage. Crit damage is basically how much of a percentage bonus you get while dealing a critical hit. So again, in conjunction with crit rate, is a pretty good stat to get. However, it is somewhat limited in how you can get it, and I'll show a couple sources later. But basically, it's like Melomon moves is pretty much the #1 source for now. And again, now we get into the individual elemental damages. You have physical damage, divine, shadow, ice, fire, thunder, nature. And basically, I think pretty much this is self-explanatory. If you have skills that deal this element of damage, having this percentage bonus damage increase just increases the damage while dealing that element. So I'm playing an assassin which has a lot of shadow damage, therefore I have 29% shadow damage. That increases all of those skills that deal shadow damage. You'd also have all damage, which is a somewhat limited stat that comes from a few sources, which affects all damage output and not just a specific element. Skill damage, again, is an attack bonus from dealing core, tactical, and passive skills whenever they deal damage. Obviously, it doesn't mention basic attack, so this is specifically your skills. Then you have core skill damage increase, which increases the damage of your core skill. Tactical damage, again, this is pretty self-explanatory, but tactical damage increases your tactical skills, passive increases your passive skills, and I'll just point out just in case anyone's not 100% clear. This in the middle is your core skill. These are your active skills, and this is your passive skills here. Sorry, tactical skills. These are your tactical. This is your core. These are your tactical skills, and these are your passive skills. So those are the ones that are affected by these 3 sets of stats here. Damage resist, again, is an extra damage reduction. Cooldown reduction is a reduction of cooldown, and this stat comes from primarily comes from starring up your skills. And then energy acquisition increases the rate at which you gain energy to use your core attack. You can see the blue bar filling. That's your energy filling up to use your core skill. So that's what that affects. So now that I've explained a bit about what each stat does, there are a few targets that you should be aiming for when you're playing to maximize your damage output and healing output and so on. So the most important is, well, I'll maybe calling it the most important. One of the most important things you need to do is to get your crit percentage and determination percentage to like 30 to 40%. I think like 35% is probably like that ideal target. And the reason for this is that getting much more, you really want to avoid getting way too much invested into one stat, because you're going to be hit by diminishing returns. And the way the game plays, when you have 30 to 35% crit rate, it practically feels like 100% anyway. And you'll see this in practice. When you have 30 to 35% crit rate, watch your character attacking, because you're going to see so many crits. Like, I'll see if I can show you here in the journey screen, for example. When you have like crit, look at this, crit, lucky crit, everything's critting. I've only got 36%, and practically every attack just there was a crit. So this is really just something you want to avoid. Like, if you said, oh, I've got 50% crit but 10% determination, maybe spec a bit out of that crit and put a bit more in determination. Determination as well, about the same number you should be aiming for, 30 35% up to 40% roughly, and again subject to the same diminishing returns. So when you have both your crit and determination at that level, you're going to see a lot more of these lucky crits. And especially, to some classes, for example, class change 1 of assassin class, almost like 90% of your 85 to 90% of your damage comes from one tactical skill. So if you can get lucky crits on that one skill which has a cooldown, you're going to be doing some serious damage. So it's very important to get that up. Attack as well, we've established, is very important for damage output, and it's something that as we get more and more sources of stats is going to get more and more scaling with attack percentage. I want to mention as well, since I did mention it early in the video, but I'll mention it again just to reiterate, heals can crit. So just keep that in mind. If you're a healer, heals can crit. It's important to definitely spec into crit as a healer as well. So you're not going to avoid that. You're going to have the same as a DPS player to aim for, the same balance of crit percentage and determination percentage. After you have this balance of crit and determination percentage, and of course, like I mentioned earlier with the accuracy, trying to get your accuracy as well to the minimum percentage you need to have 100% effective accuracy against the dragon, then you can start working on other stats. Like, for example, haste percentage is usually the next stat you might work for as a DPS, and maybe even getting to mastery percentage, if you already have quite a lot of haste. So basically, the aim of the game when it comes to stats is just to not over invest in a single stat, and try to keep your stats more balanced and not let yourself get hit by diminishing returns. Yeah, it does seem like the sweet spot for most stats seems to be that 30 to 35% range. So that's really what you should keep in mind as you're gearing up your character, recasting your gear, and tweaking things, is to keep that number in mind. So basically, I think that's a pretty good summation of skills. There's quite a lot, like I said, but once you understand how they all work, you get a better sense of how to effectively build your character and get the most DPS or healing or tanking capabilities out of them. So yeah, I mean, just to say again, once your crit percentage determination are at a good level, your accuracy at a good level, you can go completely ham on attack, haste, crit damage as well is really important, especially with the hit, the crit rate. So those are the important stats to aim for after you hit those magic numbers with crit determination and accuracy. So I think that's a wrap for now. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you'll be dealing a lot more damage output and putting a lot more heals out with the knowledge you've gained today. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked the video, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you always know when a new video is there. And join the Discord as well if you haven't already. We have lots of events and fun giveaways going on, and we have a great community of really active and dedicated gamers who are always there to chat with you and answer any questions you have. The link will be in the description down below. It's discord.gg/Natto. And that's it. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.